make sure we're live. I think we're live.
Yeah.
Call the meeting to order. You stand for the pledge. Councilman Davenport, want to lead us?
Allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome, everybody. Anybody coming in? We have agendas in the back if you want to follow us. I know some of the students come in. So we're going to do roll call first.
Okay, Supervisor Perry,
Here.
Councilwoman Foot,
Here.
Councilman Hunt,
Here.
Councilman Davenport,
Yes.
Councilwoman Van Mensko.
Here.
Okay, got everybody. All right, I'm going to just take a couple things out of order. If you don't mind, I'm going to introduce Ken Bresner. Ken works for Walden Engineering, and he's been working with the town on the IGA and the aqueduct leak. So Ken, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'll stand over here so people can see that I'm
Okay,
talking.
yeah, because you're good. They'll pick it up. This is the microphone right there.
All right. This is my second presentation. I was here last August. So this is an update. So some of the people here I've seen in their houses and they know me. Afterwards, after my presentation, if anybody wants to go into the side room, I'll talk to them individually or as a group to talk about exactly where they are and what I'm doing about their particular properties. Rich, if you can get the next slide, please.
Okay.
The first few slides are just up, you know, rehashing. That's who I am, so you can pass that.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep on going. So this is just the agenda of my presentation. I don't generally repeat because everyone is intelligent and can read. So we'll take a minute and keep on going to the next. This is the history of just repeating back the history to remind everyone where we are with the contract. And currently the contract is limited, the scope is limited to the Exhibit B, which is the next slide. That's the Exhibit B from the contract, but we're going to try to change that. So next slide, please.
I'm going to make things a little bit bigger if you're good.
This is the purpose of the contract, to help people out. And particularly, there's a few things, was the people who are having problems with private drinking wells, relocating, replacing, and improving, and engineering and water treatment systems for people who are having difficulties with the water, and some of the people are having drainage problems. The next slide, please. So DEP is involved because they're paying the fund. It's a contract between DEP and the town of Marbletown, and we are moving forward. Continue. Next slide, please. This is just a rehash of what I said before, of that we agreed upon a one-page access agreement and a one-page application so we can start the process. It's available online or request. You can email me, you can call me, you can snail mail me. I think you can get the pigeons. If you get the pigeons to me, I'll okay. Myself and my staff, we do the review of the application and we ask for additional information, but we also have to have DEP request, and we have to make a site inspection. So some of the people here, I've made site inspections, or my staff have made site inspections. We write an inspection report and write an engineering report. And that engineering report is passed to the supervisor. And then the supervisor gives his recommendations to DEP, who reviews it, makes comments, and approves it. And then you get a response that's saying your application's been accepted. And then we proceed forward with the particulars. Next slide, please. So this is just what I said. And we developed a cluster map because one thing we have learned in this process, that very often one person who has a problem, it's not isolated to that one person. It's a group of people who are having the same type of problem. Next slide, please. So we're going to now start talking about the criteria that I'm obligated to use as part of the engineering report. We're using objective data, not subjective information, and we're looking at the current and the potential future impacts. That means when the DEP aqueduct is fixed, I'm looking at that potential impact. If somebody's having no water problem right now, but 5 years from now, when that aqueduct is fixed, are they going to have a problem? So I don't want to, as I'm drilling in the well, I don't want to go down 1,500 feet. I want to make sure that we do something that's going to be a permanent fix. The data is based on the groundwater level at the property when the DEP aqueduct is operational and when it's not. So we have certain people based on USGS data that we have shown that when there's a difference of 40 or 60 feet difference. So clearly, if that's the only factor that shows that, and as an objective data, that it's only due to the aqueduct. As opposed to the certain people, when the aqueduct is off and the aqueduct is on, they drop less than a foot. And that shows, on the other hand, that it's not, their problems are not due to the aqueduct, and very often many of them have a creek maybe a foot or two below the property line. It's the surface of the property, and that's why they're having water in the basement, because the whole area of high water table has nothing to do with the aqueduct. And this contract is only connected to the impacts that the aqueduct is causing on people. And the information is entered in the understanding that we need to observe problems. So we have observed problems in that inspection report. We put that in the entry report. That document is public information by the New York State law of the FOIL or public FOIL. You can ask for it, and you just go to Rich and you can see the particulars of what I wrote. It's all public document. Next slide, please. There are some problems with properties that we had to reject. One property I had to reject, as you'll see later on, they're half a mile away from the Exhibit B area. There's no intention that the person should be accepted. Or there's some properties that I cannot show from the objective data that there's any difference of, or any significant difference of the groundwater table when the aqueduct is operational and when it's not. And therefore their problems are due to something else. Okay, so this is the status of the applications, and you'll notice the numbers don't quite add up. There's a reason for that. The applications received is fine, but some of the applications require more than one action. So you might have a property that needs to have improved drainage and some other remediation. Example, the need to have they have a well that is overflowing, and they also have erosion because of that. So we need to do not only to improve their drainage, but we have to fix the erosion problem. So they're going to have, that's why you're going to have numbers between 27 and 35 don't add up, because there are people that need more than one type of solution. Next slide, please. So we have a special case of the High Falls Industrial Park. We just, Rich and I just went up very recently up to the rail trail.
And Marianne.
And Marianne, thank you, Marianne. And we had some staff from DEP came up, and we saw that the one part of the rail trail, the aqueduct water is bubbling up, and that flows down into the High Falls Park and causing a major impact on them. And since they're a larger property, we have to do a special design for them, which is going to be much more expensive than a regular person. Next slide, please. So these are applications received. I took away from the last slide people's names. That was because there's some people who don't want their name mentioned in public, but there are addresses so that you can identify. These are applications that have been received, and people have gotten responses of whether they're accepted or rejected or whatever. Next slide, please. So continue on. And this slide is our people who are currently out of the Exhibit B area, and that's why they're given the number 700. That doesn't mean that you're rejected. It just means you're on hold until the contract is amended. That's why I say in the bottom, please look at it, is Marbletown are pursuing an amendment to the contract to include, that means expand the 500-foot on the Exhibit B that are still within the town of Marbletown. That means if it goes into another town, they're going to stop it there. But if it's within the town of Marbletown, they're going to continue on. So there are some people that are right across the street. The line was down the street, and they are property, they're on the street, so they will be now added into that once the contract amendment is done. Next slide. This is the one that was half a mile away, so I had to reject this particular property, and because there's no way we're going to amend the contract to go beyond that. This is a cluster map of, you can see some of you can see the colors in the middle. That line in the middle with different colors. That's the different colors are different geological contours of the area, but the line is where the aqueduct actually is. There are some of the properties you can see that are on there. You can see numbers, and you can see the orange, light orange type of shape, reddish orange. Those are particular properties who submit applications. I think there's only one that hasn't been added into that. Okay, these are the next steps. This is what I'm going to read a little bit. Of the town, Mary Ann and Rich and myself are having bi-weekly meetings with the DEP that's been very productive, and we've made a lot of progress with them. So we want to continue doing those. We're finalizing the expansion and amendment of the contract. It has been agreed upon by all parties. Now it's going through the lawyers, going down to the state city controller to amend the contract. And then once that's done, then I'm going to be calling up the number of people you saw on the 700 list to say, now you're in, and now I need to make appointments to see you and give a response. And Walt and myself and my staff, we're doing the active designing of the design of the remediation of the projects. So I'm going to talk about, and we expect to investigate the properties that there's two parts. One is people who I've told them that your application has been accepted and that we need to do a design, whether it be a new well, whether it be improved drainage, whether it be some other remediation we need to do. There are some people who have the problem of the USGS wells are far away from them. So we don't have any conclusive data of whether the impact is being caused by the aqueduct or not. We were planning to do, and this is not on the slide, so this is the new information. We are planning to do is open the caps of those wells and put an ultrasound device on top of that, and then measure where the groundwater was. Problem was that device only goes about 10 feet.
It's all right.
The thing, it only goes, the first 10 feet, it doesn't measure accurately. So we're gonna have to look into some other method of like having a contractor put in a piezometer to be able to, because we have to come back and measure the groundwater level. So those, let's say some of these, a person's property, we don't know for sure whether it's caused by the aqueduct or not. We don't have any good data around there. And we say, I want to put a piezometer. Piezometer is about a 1-inch pipe that goes down. It doesn't affect the groundwater. It doesn't affect the person's well, but it's a way that I can be able to measure the groundwater level and come back.
I'm going to turn it right back on. It must have timed out.
Say, okay, the aqueduct is operational. Their groundwater level is 5 feet. Okay, now the groundwater, the aqueduct has been off for a month. So it comes to equilibration. If it goes off for a day, it takes time, it's a big system. You can't measure the next day. You wait for a month, and then I go back and measure it again. If it's 5 feet again, I'm going to say, well, your groundwater level has nothing to do with the aqueduct. On the other hand, if it bottomed out at 25 feet, then I know the aqueduct is your problem is caused by the aqueduct. And then we say, then I write an engineering report appropriately based on that information. So the people who have that situation of where I've told them that we need to do further investigation, I'll be reaching out to them and saying we need to get a contractor to go out and put a in the property. Not everyone has that. There's a number of people who do have that. You saw the list before of the number of people. Once Rich gets up there.
I'm almost there. It should come up now. There we go. You're right.
Okay, next slide, please. So the drinking water and the plumbing connection technical specs have been drafted, been approved by both the town, DEP, and now we've sent that over to the town attorney to put all those technical specs into a Town of Marbletown contract. And then once that's done, then we can go to bid, get the bidders to come in, and we have to follow the procedures under state law, depending on the expense, the cost of the bid. And once that's done, and we have bidders that meet that, then we're going to contact each of the homeowners that are going to get a new well and schedule it. Part of that is a pre-construction meeting because it ultimately is their property. So we don't want to put it in, somebody's prized rose bushes. They say, please, can you move it over 5 feet? And the contractors are okay, everyone's okay, we have X marks the spot, and then we schedule time. The commitment I've made to the town is when the work is being done, somebody from Walden will be in around the area. And that way, if there's a question, they can just call up. So the homeowner knows they're doing it, the contractors knows they're doing it, and they know that somebody from Walden is available. So if they have a question, somebody can come by and say, well, things are a little different because reality is reality. It changes a little bit. Okay. The second part is the people who need to have improved drainage. We need to get accurate survey. So we're working with we have a proposal from a drone company to do a drone survey of their properties. And there's one last thing we have to get from DEP, from the contractor has to get for DEP. And then we can be able to Walden would sign that contract. And then I'll make appointments with all the different people that's everyone who's basically said, you're going to need improved drainage. You're going to get a drone. I need to have a survey because that survey is going to go right into the contract for the contractor to say, this is the person's property. This is where you're doing it. And once that's done, then the homeowner will be told, this is this is the plan. Are you okay with this? Part of my responsibility as the engineer to make sure that to calculate how much water will be generated when you do the improved drainage and that will go to a proper place. It's not going to cause a further impact. So a couple of people have the problem right now is the water will drain out nicely, but then it goes to the other side of the road and it has nowhere to go. So it goes down the road, causes ice. I can't allow that. So we have to fix that problem. So as the third bullet there says after work is progressed, the remaining project will be, that means there's certain people who need to have, one person needs to have there's a monitoring well in the back that water comes out. We have to develop the system for him. We've got some people who need to have a whole house filtering system we need to put in. The different people need different things, but those are, one off in this. I'm hoping to start work this spring. But really right now it's waiting on contractors to finish the contract and to be able to get contractors to bid on it. And then we can go forward and say, now we have contracts, we have what the plan is, and then we can start moving, talking to everyone and making sure, again, once we have a contract, then we'll reach out to the homeowner and say, this is what you've been approved for this is the contractor we're going to use. We're having one contractor for putting in the well, we're having one contractor for doing the plumbing connection. The homeowner obviously knows this and has to consent to it because it's ultimately their property. And then we can start doing that and start moving forward. And at the same time, Walden is moving forward with the drainage designs. But one critical step is I need to have those surveys. Okay, the next step here, we talked about expanding where it's really right now with the DEP lawyers and the city controller. And those applications, once that is done, then I'll be given authority to go to those people who are on the 700 list to be able to talk to them and say, make inspections and talk to them and say what the next steps for them are. And we're going to take it case by case. Next slide, please. Any questions?
I'm probably going to just ask things that you probably already know.
That's
But, so didn't you say that the USGS is going to be coming back in again to do more monitoring? Is that right?
Yeah.
To determine a larger area? Because that's where I get confused. Like, so if somebody makes an application, but the USGS didn't determine didn't say that area was the demarcated area, you can still apply, right? As long
Absolutely.
as but did you say half a mile?
I'm saying we have by the contract that Exhibit B area. That's what I'm limited to.
Okay,
We're trying to amend the contract to expand that area.
okay.
But if it's beyond that area, the contract doesn't allow me to go out there and help.
Okay, that's,
And
Help.
And we've had people come in the office who live up in Vlai. They're 7 miles from the aqueduct. They've got a 100-foot well and it's gone dry. They're not eligible for this
right.
program.
That's
So-
really obvious is what I'm
Right.
saying. So that's, I guess,
So USGS is the team we worked with, well, before Ken was here, was out of Long Island. For some reason, they've been taken off of it. and there's a new team coming from either Albany or Binghamton. So Emily told me the other day they had a call with them and they're going to be reaching out to us because they'll be in the town. They're also working down in Warsing for the Delaware Aqueduct because that has been shut down and they've got leaks.
So how does USGS, what is their criteria for deciding what wells to investigate?
So when they first came 6 years ago, they laid out the area and they kind of, from their geology, I guess, of the ground, they identified areas that they wanted to test. And they asked me, remember Tom, they were going to use Tom's house. So they said, you know, people that live around here. And I'd pick up the phone and I'd call a friend and say, could USGS monitor your well? And Tom was one of them.
They didn't modify
Because you're-
my wells in the basement.
Right. So Tom referred them to somebody else, but that's kind of how they identified areas they wanted to monitor wells. And then we found people there.
So the follow-up question, the answer to your question is, if I have areas where people's houses are near the USGS well and I have data, so that tells me of whether there's a drop or not. It shows me the aqueduct is operational or not, and there's a significant drop. Well, that clearly shows that that property and the people around that property have a problem, have an impact from the aqueduct.
And there's still, the monitors are still in these wells today.
Right, but then here's another really stupid question. So they're, don't laugh at me. So are they turning the aqueduct off and on all the time?
No.
It wasn't a stupid question, but that's
No,
what
they're
it,
not.
okay.
The thing is, and I'm waiting for them, as I mentioned before, those people who are are having an impact, they're in the area, but there's no USGS well nearby to tell me whether their problems are caused by the aqueduct or not.
You have to wait until that
No, I'm
happens.
saying, that's why I want to put that piezometer in.
So-
And be able
Right.
to put
So-
this away for me to.
There were some areas that wells were not monitored. And people have been coming forward, but we don't have data because that area wasn't monitored. So what Ken is saying is, I believe in October of this year, there's going to be another shutdown for a prolonged period of time. Ken is going to have somebody come in and we're going to monitor those wells for that period of time. And
So
because
that's
we don't have data there right now.
That's good for
But
everybody.
Ken, okay, what Daisy's done, Kenny's done going in.
So I just think generally for the public,
Yeah,
this would be a good time to step up, get your applications in order and things, particularly since the USGS is going to they're going to be turning off the aqueduct in the fall.
So can I answer the question? I'm saying is the people who we don't know for sure, I want to have waiting, getting ready, having good data while the aqueduct is operational. Then when they turn it off in October, whenever that is, and it comes to equilibration after about a month. I'm getting, it really is less than that, maybe it's a week, but I'm just giving, I want to make sure what that I take and the money you spend is really worthwhile.
Okay.
And then I go back after a month and I say, what's the data show? So that's the objective information. So that person's property, let's say it's my property, and the aqueduct, when it's operational, it's -5, and when the aqueduct is not operational, it's -5. Well, DEP is going to turn and say that's not,
Your problem,
it's not DEP's
Not DE
problem. We
problem.
have a problem. We agree you have a problem,
but it's.
but it's not DEP's problem.
Yeah,
As opposed to I go to another person's property, it's -5, the aqueduct is off, it's -25.
Okay.
So you're saying, wait a minute, why is I'm now having an impact because the aqueduct is leaking. And when the aqueduct is not leaking, -25, suddenly all my drainage problems disappear. Well, that's that DEP, so that it's a two-edged sword. If the data shows that it is DEP's problem, then they have no choice but to pay for it.
All right, Kenny's got a quick question and then Tim.
The area we're talking about, B, correct? Does that incorporate all the properties that the DEP has recognized?
No,
Okay,
DP might have
so
only monitored
that,
30
I
to
think is
40
the question
wells.
you're asking, Daisy. This does not take in all the properties that we've discussed yet.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of where I was going. It's like, we're not to the full Monty yet here. Okay.
Well, they have monitored wells outside of Area B.
Understood. I'm asking, we have over 600 properties that are identified.
Correct.
Area B does not identify 600
Yeah,
properties.
609 is in Area B.
does.
Okay, so then the answer is yes, it is all of them.
Yes, but not every property has been they're well monitored
I-
during the shutdown.
I understand that. We've just identified
And
them.
the people haven't all come forward from that area.
Correct.
Because there's also a lot of
So it's
vacant
a big
land in there,
question,
and there's a
really.
lot of vacant land, so obviously we're not gonna test a well on vacant land, because there is no well.
Those are all the people that we need.
Oh, well, we're done anyway, so.
And so just
Okay, give us-
to add to that, then the amendment that we're supposed to be working on doesn't seem like it's going to be able to be executed until when? And that list of people that are on the wait list, with like 10 or so people already, how long is it projected before that amendment can be?
Hopefully in the next couple weeks.
So without data, without,
So no, so there is data, there is data close to Area B. And like people right across the street from Area B may be getting a new well or have drainage issues. So once Area B is allowed, it's going to be a natural thing that Ken may be able to say, look, we've got 2 properties in Area B that were affected, so it's clear this one's only 50 feet away. It may be, it may be eligible for the program then.
you
Eligible to have work done.
could make that eligible.
The amendment, we're going to be talking about that on Monday with the DEP, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't see the agenda yet. I know
Yeah,
you sent it out.
is on the-
But we agreed to it like maybe a month and a half ago, and they said it would take probably 2 months before it got approved.
Right.
That was their time frame. So I think we're pretty close to having the amendment approved, right, Trace? We all sat down
So
and
I
did
mean,
all
it
that.
just was to expand the area.
Exactly. I'm just wondering about those properties. Are they on that list already that will be in the expanded
Yeah,
area?
the ones that Ken was quoting as
Yeah.
700 are in the expanded.
No, no,
expanded.
no,
Right.
no, no, 700s is anybody that calls. They could be 10 miles away. They've
Oh, I thought
called
the
him.
700 on his list.
A
were-
lot of them are just outside the line, but some are further than,
Right, where he was, right, but
Right.
the bulk of what you put on.
right, Ken, anybody that called you, you gave a number to.
I-
Even the half mile away.
Everyone that comes in, they automatically are accepting him in the program.
Right.
A couple people have withdrawn their applications, but they still have a number.
Right.
But to answer your question, there are many people that are right across the street.
Yes.
So I had to give them a 700 number. I have no choice.
So if someone applies tomorrow or at the end of the week, can they get a 700
Yes.
number and be included in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. We go through the process. And the reason for the process, I need an access agreement, so I have a permission to go there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I have an application to give me basic information, and then we can follow up with them. And once the application, the amendment,
Shh, can you not
Once
talk,
they-
Please.
Thank you.
once the amendment is approved, then I'll have authority to be able to go to these people that are within 500 feet. And the people that are beyond the 500 feet, I have to say, I'm sorry, you're rejected from this program because you're too far away.
Ken, I just want to ask a question I've been meaning to ask for a long time. When does the DEP think they will be actually starting to do the work on the aqueduct? What's the
They haven't
projected
told- They haven't
time?
told us that, Mary Ann, because I've asked them a couple of times during these meetings that we
Right.
had with them, these bi-weekly meetings. And when I say you're gonna shut down, they keep on changing their
Yeah,
dates.
okay.
So I don't have exact dates. And that's why when I put these, piezometers or something in, something similar to that, for those properties that we don't know, we're still, the jury's still out. And we take the data when the aqueduct is clearly operational. I need to know when the aqueduct is actually down, so we can send people out to go back and measure it again. And if the homeowners say, can you go back again? Well, next time we're here, we'll just do it again. Take more data. Doesn't lie too well.
Yeah,
Doesn't lie, doesn't. And that way, it's like I said, it's a two-edged sword. It shows a 10 to 20 foot drop. Well, that's black and white.
So Bill has a question.
Sure.
I have just a question regarding the data of the existing wells that are being monitored. Is that publicly available?
Yeah, so I can email it to you. It's on if you go to the US Geological Survey's website and it's got reports and you just type in High Falls, the report will come up and it's got all the wells and they're actually got 2 live wells in Marbletown that are on that screen all the time. It's being monitored. But when you look at certain maps, they've got like big red dots And those are the wells that dropped the most. And then they got tiny little dots with maybe a number 2 next to it. That only went down a foot or 2. And then they've got other ones that have gone down 60 or 70 feet during the shutdowns. So it's on, and it came out probably about 2 years ago now. So, but if you just Google US Geological Survey,
Joe Cacciari from 2426. About when we started the process, and this might be for Ken or it might be for Rich, there was at least a question about whether we could recover costs that were not part of the remediation. So we had about $7,000.
yeah, I've got your bills. So that's in this amendment. We will hopefully know in a week. So this latest amendment is to increase the size 500 feet outside the area in the town of Marbletown. And it's to pay previous claims for property owners who paid. And Ken may have to do a report on those just to verify and stuff. But so I've got receipts from 3 people, and DEP is so anyway, that's really close. We're just waiting for it to be done.
And I want to say thanks to everybody for doing all this too. Stuff that we could never do on our own, you know.
But I was
Sure.
supposed to give you a claim, and I never did, so.
Yeah, so when I'll get it from you. I've got 3 so far.
I'm gonna be putting a claim in too, just to be on the safe side.
That's why I'm telling people,
We're neighbors and I'm doing the same
Oh, no,
thing.
no, this is different problem.
Oh,
Yeah,
different.
different.
that's why I told people when I went out to keep your receipts, because I knew this was in the wind and we wanted to have what Rich is talking about, is DEP may turn to me and say, can you ground truth? So if somebody says, there's a bill here for, like this work, if it's a $200,000 bill because they put in 10 cubic yards of gravel, well, that's not gonna pass
And
muster.
DEP is not going to approve payment if the documentation is not,
Correct.
clear. They're so militant. They're good. They've been great to work with, but they're really strict on their.
It's not, they're not being difficult, it's their audit people are being
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, the local people are great. Okay, one more time and then Laura.
Can you just explain, because I just don't quite understand, maybe I missed the meeting. So the reservoir, this is just all pipes that went through and then it broke so that water is pooling, or when it goes dry, when it's not, then it's, explain.
What happened?
How they,
These are massive pipes that are over 100 years old.
so they're gonna
They're
dig them.
coming down from the Catskills down to New York City.
And it's a pressure tunnel. So through Stone Ridge, 4.5 miles is what they call an actual pressure tunnel, 5.5 miles, where by Daisy's house on Pine Bush Road, it goes down about 500 or 600 feet in a huge area. And then on lower 27 Knolls by Montague, it comes up and it's actually a little smaller, the pipe there. So there's so much pressure going through this tunnel. And it gives it the power to go through the mountain, over the mountain, and then down the rest of its way. So what's happening is when a pressure tunnel's on, I mean, I don't think they know exactly, but I've heard estimates that pressure tunnel leaks up to 10 million gallons a day. And that's all coming to the surface. It's coming, and every time they shut it down, the water level drops in areas, and they do these prolonged shutdowns for 2 or 3 months while they haven't been working on the aqueduct. They've been doing inspections to find the leaks. They've identified, I think, 11 leaks. And so anyway, so it's the pressure. It's when the pressure's not there, there's no leaks, but people's wells have gone dry.
When they're, to explain,
No,
when they're
that's not
400
the
feet
intention.
under, what is that?
The intention is fixing your
Water
property
going through.
because people are suffering now. And
But it's
having
natural.
the design not only deal with
Still,
when the aqueduct is operational, but also when the aqueduct is not operational. To make sure, as an example, somebody says, I need my drinking water well has a lot of sediment because it's only 150 feet deep. And I'm having a lot of problems, so we want to put a new well in that's 350 feet deep. Why? Because the aqueduct is operating fixed.
blowing it out.
100-foot or 50-foot well is gonna go dry. You're gonna go to a deeper well that you account for the aqueduct in the future, you're gonna have no problem.
Because once it's fixed, you might have different problems.
And
Yes.
that's what I'm, that's what I, as an engineer, I'm trying to anticipate, but I want to have all the homeowners weigh in to the design, because ultimately it's your home, and the design that I designed work for you, and if it doesn't, we have to talk about it and make sure that something works for you and works for what I have to account to DEP and good engineering. What I mean by that is whatever solution I have, I can't solve your problem because your neighbor has a problem. I can't do that.
You can't really predict that when it's all fixed, that you got everything on that property.
I can't be,
You can't be.
engineering is not 100%.
Yeah,
I
so
will-
there
I will
might be
admit
a
that.
follow-up.
Right.
After that's all fixed, which might be 3 years.
Once it's
from
fixed, we're gonna have sinkholes in town. That's the next worry.
That's a different, that's a
Yeah.
different.
That's when you're on the town board, not of us.
One short story I want to say is, I'm old enough to remember Love Canal. And they had EPA come to Love Canal and said, the public was very upset because they were getting sick. I understand that. And they asked the people from the EPA the question, would you stay here? And they said, absolutely not. So I learned that lesson as a young engineer to say, if I'm asking you to have done at people's property, as what would I do with my property? So that way, the question is, would you drink my water? And the answer would be yes.
Okay, we're gonna go to Laura and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, you were at my house,
Right.
and you remember, it was kind of an unusual day.
Right.
I live off Leggett Road,
Right.
and unfortunately, my well was fairly, the cover was obscured by a lot of vines.
Right.
But I had put in the application, but so far as I know, I never got an
No,
acceptance
But I
or a
wanted,
rejection.
so I wanted to, now that Rich has to go to something else, the people who have questions for me, I'm gonna go to a room down the hall and
Okay.
I'll be happy to talk
Oh,
to
great.
you as long as you want.
Okay.
And then get your information, because I don't think I can slip on anybody. That's not what I think it's
There's a
going.
house on Leggett mentioned. it.
Whoever wants to come on
There's a
down.
few.
It's probably Laura.
Yeah.
I think Laura, your house was, and you weren't here, but there was a list. There was a house on Leggett. I think it was your house.
No, my address is not actually Leggett. I saw my address come up. but
Oh.
I mean, I had the inspection and I don't know.
I saw, yours has been submitted to DEP,
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
one more quick one.
I'll check on
How did
it.
like the 609 in the zone, those people, should we be letting our neighbors know to contact, or have they been contacted?
It's a good question. So what we kind of decided to do it's a 4-year program. So what we decided to do, instead of sending letters to 600 people and just being overwhelmed, we kind of just people that read about it in the meetings and word of mouth. Now that that's slowing down, we're going to start doing mailings to the rest of the residents. So certainly let your neighbors know word of mouth, but we're going to reach out. We're going to do some stuff at the transfer station, notices there. We're going to do a direct mail piece to the residents. So we just didn't want to get slammed with 400 people the first 6 months, because this is a new program to DEP too.
But
They've never done
you're
anything like
welcome
this.
to- We have the bandwidth to be able to handle more applications. So tell your neighbors, I've gone to different people's neighbors and say, I have no problem. That's fine. But if you're having a problem, come on in.
Yeah,
Talk about it.
and we've had people whose wells were tested during the shutdown, it went down 70 feet, but they never ran out of water. So if their neighbor's well wasn't tested during the shutdown, they might have gone down 70 feet. But since they weren't tested, they don't know this. And that's part of the problem we're going to run into is once these leaks are fixed permanently, how many people didn't have their wells monitored, that when the water table levels, is it going to go below how deep their well is? And then we're going to have, but DEP's been good. We're going to do a water district study. They're going to fund for us. There's other things they're going to do for us. So this is like just a fix to get started. But I see this lasting for 4, 5, 6 years and keeping.
And
Even
you mentioned that. I just was going to say, the data we're collecting in the region is going to inform our water district proposal, right?
Yeah.
We can use that data.
So New York City is going to need all kinds of DEC and state permits before they can fix that aqueduct. They can't just go in there and fix it. Part of the data that Ken is doing is actually going to help them go to the state and the USGS. They're going to compile all that data and go to the state when they get their permits to fix the aqueduct. I might have not explained that correctly, but it's a pretty significant process they have to go through to before they start fixing those leaks.
And so we can sort the data to inform our water district so that we can be
Yeah.
proposing
You know,
grants.
we've got to, we need to get on them. We are going to do another amendment to the contract. One is to do the water district study, and the other, Ken, is going to be to increase the funds for High Falls Park, the business park, because we don't have, the contract was only 1.25 million, and the High Falls Water Park alone, business park, could be 2 million. And so we've got to do another amendment. So we're going to start working on that soon.
We're doing a rough design on the High Falls Business Park, and part of that is to come up with a cost estimate. with contingencies based on, what we
Right.
don't know, et cetera.
We,
And that will tell the supervisor what he needs to know to put in the next amendment.
Right.
And one of the things that I've suggested, based on my experience of talking to people being up here, there are certain people that are close to Exhibit B that are suddenly having their wells drop out. I don't know why. I'm not a geologist. I will say that. I'm an engineer. And they need to have the water from the community college brought over to them so they have good water.
The more people and the more data we can collect.
Right.
Going forward in the future, the new boards that come on will give them better leverage to deal with the DEP to get this town what this town deserves.
Right.
That's my thoughts.
right, and this is down in New Windsor where the Delaware Aqueduct goes. When they shut the Delaware, which is out of the Rondout Reservoir, they had wells drop 200 feet and just go completely dry in like days. So we're not as bad as they are. Our deepest well losses were 70 feet, 80 feet.
But the High Falls Fire Department, they have a well 500 feet deep and it went dry. They have no water there.
But it didn't go dry because of the aqueduct turnoff.
I don't think it is, but
Yeah,
that's data. Your point, Ken, is correct. You get all the data, all these piezometers that I'm talking about doing, all that will
Right.
feed into them because I'll say this property, this property, this
Yeah,
property.
because we,
This is what the numbers were when the aqueduct was operational on this date at this time and this date and this time. And we'll just more data will feed into the whole system.
When you're talking about people not having water, they can't wait 4 or 5 years. They're gonna be.
so here's the weird thing. Right now, the aqueduct is running really good and it's leaking 10 million gallons a day. People shouldn't be running out of water today. They should be running out of water when the aqueduct is turned off. But when they turn it off, the water level drops. The route the water takes, the air pockets collapse. They turn it back on. It may take different routes. But the problem is we don't know nobody can look underground. It's
Charles taught
I know.
so some of
You
the,
got me
you
and
know,
Rich to understand it. It's
so
like, wow.
right now, nobody should be out of, the issues today should be the excess water coming out of the ground and the drainage issues. It shouldn't be wells going dry, but it is because
Because those fissures
those
close.
fissures close and then it goes different. So anyway, it's really complicated and it's
It's a
just,
very complicated geological structure. It really is.
and I wish they built the aqueduct through the town of Rochester.
We can get.
Think you might have
We can get a water.
Does anyone have any further questions for
Okay.
me before I go to the side room and talk to some people?
Thank you, Ken.
thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Ken's been really great to work with and thanks, Ken. Okay, we're going to go to vouchers now.
Okay, there are no amendments for the March 4th vouchers. Ask you to general fund vouchers number 119 to 159 for a total payment of $41,633.89. Highway fund vouchers number 68 to 92 for a total
Guys,
payment of
Trace. They can't hear.
$44,022.65. High Falls Water District vouchers number 29 through 35 for a total payment of $5,828.98. RMC vouchers 44 through 52 for a total payment of $6,501.07. And Community Preservation vouchers number 3 through 4 for a total payment of $4,950. And I have a motion for discussion.
I moved.
Second.
That was Mary Ann. Sorry, Tim. Okay, any questions?
No, I looked them over pretty closely this afternoon and,
What was Lou doing with Bacchus early season?
oh, Mumbakis, yeah, that was a big,
Mambakis?
Yeah, he just left to go to ask questions, but
Highway.
I know it's got something, it's got to have something to do with sand or something. I just,
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
thought that we had a bunch left, so I didn't know.
Yep, I can't answer that. We can ask him when he comes back in.
Yeah, it's not going to change. I mean, I know that that's one of the vendors we use. I just was wondering what was up because I thought we had enough, but we did have a bunch of ice.
The VFW posts.
Yeah.
So we have a budget line where we would give the VFW. We do a program called the Patriot Pens, where they go to the Rondout High School, Kingston High School, and the English teachers, the national of the VFW asks a question And these kids write poems and essays on these questions. And then the VFW has a luncheon where they invite the students and they talk about their poems and they honor the winners and stuff. So the town has done this before I got here. So it's a
Long time.
long time. We've always been doing it. So,
So we're all in favor for this?
well, wait.
Hold on, we're discussing.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, so that's what
Okay, I
that's for.
apologize.
It's once a year. So, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, minutes. Heather sent the minutes out last week. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes?
There is, the end of page, I think it's page 5. Yeah, it says Supervisor Parity said that he has conversation with representative from Ulster County and was informed. And it just drops off, so I don't know.
So do we want to hold off on this then till Heather comes back?
I don't know how important that is, but
Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember. I say a lot.
Really?
Got 3 years until you can be president, so.
Yeah, right. Got 8 months left, 7 months left. We can hold off. I mean, listen, and minutes, really, the only important thing are the actions the board takes. I mean, Heather is really, really thorough. So, as long as the votes are there, what we vote on, you really don't have to do anything else. So we want to wait till next month.
no, we can approve it.
Guys, can you not?
Yeah, come on, guys, please.
You have to be quiet. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
What do you think, Tim?
Does it? We can just wait,
We can wait.
right? It doesn't.
Yeah, we can hold off.
That's fine.
Okay.
I wasn't here, so I don't know what you said.
You don't watch the video when you miss a meeting?
Yeah. Sure.
That's the first thing he does when he wakes up the next
Yeah,
morning.
I had the thing in the
He
lap
watches
at the
the 2-hour
bar. It was
video.
great.
Come on, Kenny.
You're funny. People are laughing.
All right, so we're going to hold off on the minutes this month, this meeting. We did the presentation, so now we're going to go to public comment. So for anybody new, we have 2 sections of public comment. The first section right now will be questions on any of the 8 resolutions. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll just kind of take questions on anything. It's more of a back and forth. Okay, so anybody have a question on resolution?
Yes, this has to do with the resolution about the purchase and sale of the Philander property. I'm wondering whether or not the board or anyone at OSI has been in touch with the property owners who are adjacent to or will be affected by the Philander development, especially when it comes to water. Any residential development as it's currently planned, will cause problems with water for the residents. Then the other question has to do with whether or not you are voting today to approve the potential for residential housing, et cetera. And the third question is, you say that Marbletown can secure the necessary funds to acquire the land. What land are you talking about? The 93 acres or the 15 acres that was discussed for housing in the development presentation? I assume when you say that you can find the funds, you will just pluck it from the preservation fund.
Okay, thank you. We'll address it when we get to the resolution. Your questions. Hey, would anybody else like to say anything on the public comment? Okay, thank you, Christine. All right, we'll move on. There'll be an opportunity to speak at the end. Resolution 36 is a resolution to purchase an excavator for the highway department. Can I get a motion for discussion? All right. I know Lou's here and can answer any questions. The highway department, would you, Lou, you want to just briefly speak on it?
So, we have a fund, we have purchased a 57 excavator from some, one thing that didn't mention in the resolution is officer as well, which is a bidding consortium that New York is in. So we don't have to go to bid, we can just take it off source with the president.
Well, they do the bidding for us.
Correct, so that's a pre-approved price. And it's something that is needed, you know, we're dealing with a lot of pipes that have to get changed in the road. This will allow, it's got smaller footprint than a backhoe that we typically use. So it'd be safer, we could potentially be able to leave the road open sometimes. Most of the time when we change a pipe that crosses the road, we have to close the road for any day. And potentially we'll be able to surplus the older pieces of equipment when we get this.
Potentially, definitely.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. We have one.
That wasn't in the, potentially wasn't in the negotiation. It was going.
You know, we have our highway garage.
I thought it was 3 surpluses.
We have another, and the dump truck is gonna go here soon. Once we get it straight. We have a site on Peak Road where we keep shale and all of our roads. So we have a machine up there that loads out materials, it stays up there. So we just have to juggle a few things around.
Thanks, Lou.
So to piggyback on, I've been talking with Lou on this, what really is going on with this newer piece of equipment is this. We can do more work in a faster amount of time and get more done during the course of a year. We were talking about our drainage ditches alongside of the roads and everything. This thing can do a lot more than the bucket loader we can do, and we can get much more done in a safer fashion and keep the highways running better and open more. So the nice thing is from a keeping our roads maintained standpoint, we'll be able to get that done each year instead of being like behind on that project. Also, this is more fuel efficient. And I believe, right, Lou, more people can use this vehicle than the other vehicles. So you got more people that can use it. So
We want to send it to Tim. I think I sent it to you. That's just a quote.
We're buying it without any buckets because the backhoe buckets will fit on this machine. It's a New Holland model. We have New Holland backhoe, skid steer, mowers, and we have the software to read all the codes for servicing and whatever. So that's why we went with that model.
Great. Any questions?
And the one that's going to be traded in or sold is the excavator?
No, we don't have an excavator now.
It's the backhoe.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a 2008, and it's got about 8,000 hours.
Okay. And this is, he's got it in his
I
budget.
don't know how many other people are looking up. What's the difference between a backhoe and an excavator?
Well, the backhoe.
Smaller.
Rubber tire-
it's a good question. Let him answer it.
Rubber tire versus track.
Oh, right, okay.
They're a little stronger.
The track machine has a smaller profile and sitting, doing work, you can spin it all the way around. The backhoe, you have to maneuver it. We're gonna change the pipe tomorrow with the backhoe, it can be done, but you have to move it about 4 times. You don't get halfway, you gotta go to the other side.
This one's going to tilt left and right, right?
Still left and right.
So they'll be able to get a little, and it's got a thumb. It'll have a
Yeah,
thumb
it
where
has
the
a thumb.
backhoe, our
We use it
backhoe.
to pick up wood and brush and, potentially we can get a mower attachment for it to mow brush down if we want to.
Easy wants to drive it.
That's fine. You have to come to the garage
Hey,
to get.
dude,
I know, yeah.
I've done tours of that garage. I'm on your side.
I know, I know.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right, all in favor?
I
Opposed? Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Carried 5-0. Resolution, well, now we're going to do the most important part of the meeting. Don't fall asleep. We're going to do our full environmental assessment form. Do you want me to go over it, Tracy, or you want to do it?
You know, I don't know that I have.
I made you a copy. I,
Ah,
if you don't want to do it, I'll do it.
No, it's fine. If you want.
So this is required. We need to go over this form
Publicly.
publicly.
I left my drink back on.
I'll buy you a drink after.
Okay. The name of the project is the Town of Marbletown Zoning Law Amendment. This is the introductory law. Number 8 of 2025, isn't it number 1?
It's A, and then once in the final resolution approving it, it turns to number 1 in the final whereas, or in the final resolved.
The project location is the Town of Marbletown, Ulster County.
That's good to me.
Project. Marbletown Town Board is considering amendments to Chapter 200 of the Town Code, the zoning law. The changes are for 2 purposes. The first is to implement a town comprehensive plan policy created in 2005 and to reinforce it in a 2024 update to provide housing opportunities for the full economic range of the town's population. Housing opportunities for the full range of the town's population should be provided in a form that is compatible with the scale and pattern of existing development. The special housing needs of senior citizens, low income, and young families should receive particular attention. And the amendments would allow the creation of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in the town, specifically addressing the need for affordable housing. ADUs are smaller, independent residential dwellings located in the same lot as a single-family house. ADUs offer an affordable housing option by using existing land and infrastructure. They provide homeowners with supplemental incomes, can increase the property values, offer housing to family members, and provide more potential housing options for all residents. New York State is actively promoting the construction of ADUs, the +1 ADU program, of which Ulster County is a beneficiary. The second purpose of the amendments are to correct a number of inconsistencies identified in the zoning law that were created by prior zoning. The project sponsor, Town Board, Town of Marbletown. I'm not going to read our. Requires governmental approval. Amendments to Chapter 200 in the zoning code. It does not require approval of the Planning Board or Planning Commission, although there has been a planning review. There are no other local agencies. The county, Ulster County Planning Board has reviewed this and made comments, and there are no other federal or state agencies that are involved. It does not impact coastal resources. The project is not located within a local waterfront revitalization program, and the project is not within a coastal erosion hazardous area. Planning and zoning. Will the administrative or legislative adoption or amendment of a plan, local law, or ordinance, rule, or regulation be the only approval? Yes. Does the municipality adopt comprehensive local land use? Yes. Does the comprehensive plan specific recommendations for the site where the proposed action is, does the comprehensive plan include specific recommendations for the site where the proposed action would be located? And the answer is yes, because this is for a town-wide project. Is the site of the proposed action within any local or regional planning districts? Yes. It's within the Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area, the Hudson River Valley Greenway, and the Catskill Park. Is the proposed action located wholly or partially within the area listed in the municipal open space plan? Yes. Town Natural Heritage Plan, Town Agricultural and Farmland Protection Plan. Zoning, is the site of the proposed action located in a municipality with an adopted zoning law or ordinance? Yes. We list all of the zoning districts. Is the use permitted or allowed by a special or conditional permit? Yes. Existing community services. What district is the project site located? The Rondout Valley School District, Onteora, and Kingston School Districts. Public protection forces that serve the project would be state police and the Ulster County Sheriff. Fire protection is the Cottikill Fire Company, High Falls Fire Company, Triple Bush, Lyonsville, Lamontville, Stone Ridge. Parks that serve the project site are the Minnewaska State Park, State Forest Lands, Mohonk Preserve, and the Town and Ulster County Parks.
And that's it for the phase 1. The rest is all NA. I went a little ahead on you,
Thank you. No, I'm glad.
just to help luck. So now we're on part 2,
Now we go to part 2.
which is page 1 of 10, after page 13.
Part two, this is the ordinance. Will there be an impact on the land? Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. The answer at this point is no. Correct. Will there be an impact on geological features? The answer is no. Impact on surface water? No. If any of the board members have any disagreement with any of this, speak up. Impact on groundwater? No. Impact on flooding? No. Impact on air quality? No. Impact on plants and animals? No. Impact on agricultural resources? No. Impact on aesthetic resources? No. Impact on historical and archaeological resources? Checked.
Yes.
Yes, and it's because, as we go through it, the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within a substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological sites, or districts which are listed in the National or State Register of Historic Places. The answer is no to small and moderate. So in essence, because you're impacting sections of the town that are within the historic or archaeological districts, we would say here that the answer is yes, even though it's not a substantial impact. The project may occur within the New York State Historic Preservation archaeological sites that are noted by the New York State Historical Preservation Office. So the answer there again is no or small impact may occur. The proposed action may occur wholly within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included in the New York State SHPO inventory. And again, no or small impact. Impact on open space and recreation, no. Impact on critical environmental areas, no. Impact on transportation, no. Impact on energy, no. Impact on noise, odor, or light, no. Impact on human health, no. Consistent with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with the adopted land use plan, and the answer is no, because it is consistent with your adopted plans. It's a sort of a double.
Yeah, look at it, I go.
I know, it's like, it's a trick question.
Consistency, community character, no. This again is a double negative. So the proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character, which is, it's not inconsistent, which is why the answer is no.
So we're going to determine as a type 1 and unlisted?
What?
Type 1 and unlisted?
Yeah.
Are we done?
So this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement is not being prepared, and accordingly this negative declaration is issued.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
That was very well read.
Bedtime stories.
Resolution 37 is to actually adopt the neg deck. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
You all right?
Any more
Second.
resolutions, because I don't have them, I'm trying to find them.
There's
on
one
my
in the back.
computer. It's driving me nuts. I'll get it.
Sure. Yeah, I thought you usually go on your computer, so that's why.
I know, it's fine, I usually do, and for some reason it slipped me.
That's right. So, do we have a second motion?
Second.
Okay, Tim seconded. This is to the neg deck, authorizing adoption of a full environmental assessment form and filing of a neg deck. So I would file this if it's passed. I'll file a neg deck with the county, the state, the planning board, and the town clerk. So I would have to submit with all four signatures. Any questions on that?
Just glad to see this law amended and refined.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So, and thank you, Daisy. Daisy did the most of the work on this.
No, we and I both worked hard on this, so.
I don't like zoning. I sleep through most of that.
We
portion
also
of the
had a
meetings.
guy who's the town planner we worked with, who knows the stuff backwards and forwards and was able to walk us through it, so.
So great. Resolution 37, adopting the secret neg deck. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Resolution 38 is to adopt the local law 1 of 2025. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. This is adopting the local law, the amendment. Basically, the only change to this local law, the main change is zoning, special use permits used to go through the zoning board. So this law allows them to go through the planning board, which is consistent with every other municipality in Ulster County, and most of them throughout the state. This law also will allow second ADUs on accessory dwellings on people's property. For your first one, it's going to be allowed by right, as long as you can meet the setbacks in our zoning district. If you want to have a second one, you have to have 125% of the minimum acreage in a property. So say you live in a 4-acre zone, to get a second ADU, you're going to need 5 acres. If you live in a 1-acre zone, you're going to need 1.25 acres to get a second unit. It's also, you need health department approval for your septic for the extra dwellings, and you would need the water to allow, the water would have to be allowed also. So our building, actually, the second ADU, the planning board would take care of all that. The first ADU, the building department would do all that. So any questions on the board?
I thought the whole outlay of that is really well done.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating reading.
And the second ADU too, also, that has to be affordable.
Correct.
And for how many years is
I
that?
think we did 15, right?
Yeah.
So,
We went down from 50 years.
yeah.
So, right, so if a resident does one accessory dwelling unit, whether it's in the house or detached or above your garage, you can rent that out, whoever you want to rent it out to, you can get the best rate you can get. Any of these ADUs cannot be short-term rented. They have to be for long-term renters. The second ADU would have to be somebody making 80% of the average median income for a length of 10 years. So, we're giving people the ability to have a second accessory dwelling unit. And in return, we're asking that they try to keep it affordable for 10 years. So
Can I just make it?
Yeah.
You said somebody would have to make 80%. It would be 80% or less.
80% or less. Correct. My bad.
And also just so people know, can you talk a little bit about the county, the money from the county?
Yeah. So we put it on our website and social media. Ulster, well, it's not the county now, it's RUPCO. The first round was the county. RUPCO has gotten 2 $5 million grants from the county. They were approved for a third one recently, and it's going to go live in mid to late spring. So we're only a couple months from it going live. This grant, RUPCO will give a property owner up to $125,000 to build an accessory dwelling unit, whether it's detached, above the garage, inside in the basement, inside the house. And it's income-based. You have to actually, if you go to RUPCO's website, or if you go to our website, the link is there. There's income levels to be eligible. So if you have a household of 6, the income level might be 120,000, and then you can get this grant. If it's a household of 1 or 2, it might be $90,000 is the income level. RUPCO will give you that money free and clear, but they do require it. The only exception is for 10 years, it has to be rented at 80% or less of the average median income. But I think it's a great program. We all do, because it increases the value of your home. It's providing housing.
But for the RUPCO one, for that grant, you'd have to, the unit would have to be affordable.
For 10 years.
For 10 years, even if it was your first.
Even if it's your first unit. The RUPCO one is, even if it's your first unit, it has to be affordable. But that would be done with RUPCO. You would have to certify every year with the rent or the taxes. RUPCO's got a whole process you go
Take care of all
Do
that.
they slide that, Rich? With the from a economic standpoint, like how often do they change that? And I'm just asking, if I'm signing up for a 10-year JAG and the number's X, the economy is going to change over that period of time.
I don't know
Like
the
the-
answer.
No, that number change, that number
So
changed.
and then how does, I'm sure they got something that they.
I mean, they're not gonna kick somebody out. I can't imagine they're gonna kick somebody out if they're.
No, I'm talking, I'm the homeowner and I'm going like, I'm locked on a number. And the,
Well,
eco-
yeah,
and
but
the-
from the, I did one with the Kingston Trust for somebody, and it just says it has to be within the affordable.
right, so is that 80% goes up?
Right, that 80%
Right,
changes
that's-
over time.
That's all my
Yeah, if
question.
the county changes it, then it would
Right.
change.
Each year,
it would
each year
follow
that
that
number
change.
changes. You
Yeah.
just have to stay within their limits. It doesn't, you're not locked, let's say.
You're locked on the 80%, you're not locked
80%
on.
is $40,000 this year. That 40,000 doesn't remain constant through the 10 years. That 40,000 changes each year as the 80% changes. So it might go to 42 or whatever.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, all in favor of local law number 1 of 2025?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, thank you, Daisy. Daisy worked really hard on this, so the credit goes to you.
The REPCO program is open for how long? Do you know the
So
date?
the money goes out.
Okay.
So it's
First
open.
come, first serve.
So the one that's closed now opened in October, and I think it was shut by like the new year. It went pretty quick. So Tim, what they did tell us, I spoke to Kai the other day from the county. He's the county housing guru. He said that if somebody's got a building permit, health department approval, and a builder, they are going to be funded first. They're going to start funding shovel-ready people. I think what happened in the past is people went to them. They didn't have a builder. They didn't have plans. They showed them their taxes. They're eligible. They were given a grant, and the money still hasn't been spent. He said a lot of seniors have been taking advantage of it too, which is good. And so anyway, he said, if you know people that want to do it, start the process today, because in 2 months, a month and a half or 2 months when it kicks off, if you can show you've actually taken steps to get it, you're going to be one of the first people to get it. So of the $10 million, I think there's 84 approved projects in the county. So, which makes sense, 125,000 roughly times 84. So, all right. So thank you, everybody. So now we're going to go to Resolution 39, which is the purchase and sale agreement with Open Space Institute. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
This resolution is for us to enter into an agreement to purchase roughly 93 and a half acres from Open Space. Open Space owns this. We're doing a subdivision in town. It'll be in a planning board agenda in next week or 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks, whenever their next planning board meeting is, to cut off roughly 15 and a half acres, which the town is going to purchase through town funds. And then the remaining property is going to be purchased through preservation money from the preservation plan. And that's really where the money's going to come from. We've already got a $250,000 grant from the federal government that OSI applied for, New Paltz, Marbletown, and Gardner. And Matt had said it was already earmarked. So I think we got it, even with everything going on in Washington. He said we're in good shape. So this agreement, the housing portion, OSI would like to get paid in 6 months. It's only a 2-lot subdivision for 93 acres. It'll be approved in probably 2 meetings of the planning board. And then we'll have 4 months after that to pay for it. That'll come from town funds. The other money from the preservation and the grant, we've got up to 3 years to pay it. It's basically the same as
Marbletown
the
Meadows.
Marbletown Meadows. It's really the same agreement, pretty much. As far as neighbors go, I can't tell you what OSI did. It was a private purchase sale. There was a for sale sign on that property for probably about 7 years. So OSI bought it. Stop. No.
Just address the house
No.
bridge, that's all.
Wait, Christine,
So-
let me just tell you, there is no, right now, which is, the town is purchasing that 15 acres for, and we're proposing to put housing on there at some point. We're not going to do it unless it, until the infrastructure and everything is set up in such a way that it's possible. And that means making sure that water's available, all of that. We're not trying to pull a fast one.
There'll be no houses there until
To be honest
municipal
with
water
you,
is there.
you should be glad that it's in the town's hands, because if this was in a private person's hand, they could determine that the water table's just fine and they can just put the houses in there. We're going to be much more careful with that idea, and make sure that, nobody is going to be adversely impacted by this. So we'll be very careful with it. It's the second sort of quiver in our bow now to address this affordable housing issue. And it's just super, and we're just starting to kind of talk to people, and but believe me, we'll keep you informed, everybody informed about, who we're going to be working with and all of those. It's going to be a while, but we needed to secure the land, and this is how we did it. Otherwise, it would have ended up at some point in somebody else's hands, who would have put up just mega mansions and, and done whatever they wanted to with it.
So one thing, and you say what we're going to do, we haven't done any discussion of design.
No,
development.
nothing. Honestly,
So
it's just
when we
securing
say
the
we're-
land right now. That's all.
It already designates it housing, the 15 acres in the purchase, which I don't know if that narrows us in any way. What if we discover in the future that we want to shift plans? I don't know.
So
We could sell it.
Yeah.
you could sell it. I mean, the designation is literally just a sort of placeholder. And yes, because it's already being designated, we've, from the planning board perspective, we've asked for some modification to the application so that we don't run into any, issues of transparency. So there will be a general conversation before the planning board about the ultimate potential intention for that use will be housing. So that, but down the road, if and when.
The town wants to make it a town park, they can make it a town park.
Right. So we
It's
just
not
have
gonna
to
be-
shift.
It's not gonna be designated only for housing, and if for some reason it fails, then then my understanding is the town would buy the whole parcel, and it would just go into the open space.
Well, no,
Well,
we
that's-
can't do that. Once
Well,
unless
no, it says-
unless the planning board doesn't approve it, and then that.
Well, they can't not approve it. It's allowed by right.
Not just the planning board, but let's.
No, but Tracy, your information's wrong. The town, we can't, in other words, once the town buys that 15 acres out of their own pocket, we can't, it's against the law.
No,
What Tracy's saying is if there's a permissive referendum and it fails,
Right.
it may have to be preservation money.
Oh, I didn't hear.
Or we could go to the county, or we could go to the county could buy it.
Right.
Then they're not open to any of these rules and regulations, and then the county, the county can hire a
But and
developer
then
to
all I was
develop.
saying was, and then if and when there is going to be a housing project, there will be ample public
Ample public
comment
And
discussion.
really part of
design,
Right.
everything.
part of this property is if we work with housing, Habitat for Humanity, a private developer, a RUPCO, they can leverage monies to extend a water district, whereas we're not able to get those monies as a town because we're not in the building district. Ulster County just sent an email. They're giving one award to a municipality in Ulster County for $1 million to extend water lines to a housing project. Now, we're not eligible there because we don't have a housing project there, but there's municipalities that are applying for this $1 million. There's state monies for affordable housing programs. And when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about people that go to work every day that can't live in our communities, not people that don't want to work. It's just people that are going to work every day and that they can't live here. So they can access state and federal monies for water, which will tie in with the housing development. So
The housing element,
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's all great. And I think there's a couple of things that come into play in my mind. And this is kind of a difficult one for me to deal with because part of this thing I really like and part of it I don't like at all. And I am concerned where we've taken one large parcel that we've dealt with OSI, and now we're taking another large parcel. And that amount of acreage, when you total it up, the part I like is we're actually taking 15 acres that we're actually going to use to help sustain and build the town, right? But the part that I don't like is, as you know, because I sent out some of this information, within 60 days of the town doing the deal with OSI on the first part, the average, Zillow home sale price in our town went up over $200,000. And so the economics of that have me sitting here going, so we're going to take another large parcel off, and that's good.
It's not buildable.
Daisy, you're getting into what you want to hear. I'm just going with what I'm wrestling with. This is what I'm wrestling with is the message to people around is that there's a land conservancy, right? Which is great. But that there's not going to be much development in this town. Therefore, I can buy something and the value is going to go up. That's not helping with our affordable quadrant. That's just something I'm wrestling with. I'm just telling you.
But I think if you look at, there's been since I've been here, there's been 3 developers have come in with either Peak Engineering or Medenbach and Eggers and Carr with potential buyers to meet with the planning board for housing developments. 3 people, all significant housing. But the one thing is a lot of that area is wetlands. So they were clustered, and a big area they were clustered is the area we're buying for the houses.
That's the only
So-
area that you can build.
So
I get it. And there's a reason why that piece of property was on the market for 7 or 8 years, because it's just, from my standpoint, you can't do something with the entirety of it. You just can't.
So I would ask that we all look at this. To me, I think affordable housing often has for whatever reason, negative connotation. Oftentimes people who end up in affordable housing and they end up in places where other people have rejected and is not aesthetically, very nice and everything. And I think that we have this opportunity to create this affordable housing and give people access out their back door who normally could never afford that kind of acreage or that kind of opportunity for nature and natural landscape for walking. They just wouldn't be able to afford it. And to give people that opportunity, I think is pretty awesome as a town. It'll also be an area, and I get what you're saying, Ken. When this opportunity came up, it worked for me because of the dual aspect of it. If it had just been the property, I would have. I was very clear with the open space. I said I was not interested unless we could.
we told them no. Daisy said no.
I said no, and believe me,
I was there. I get it, Daisy. It's still for me. And listen, you understand my whole taxation without representation deal is the whole way it's set up. I don't agree with on that side. So that gets me to no pretty quickly. But I'm just saying, these are the other things I'm wrestling with when you look at the dynamic. I think it's great that there's going to be 15 acres that can be put into where people that are in this community can go, oh my God, actually something's going to happen in our town that's a positive. That's pretty great, right? But there's this other thing attached to it that I struggle with.
well,
Again, it's a partnership with OSI, which is unique. It's the Preservation Fund, which is very unique. It is unbuildable property.
Some of it.
Some of it is unique. For me, though, I feel like we haven't made decisions about what the 15 acres would be.
No.
For me, I'd like to see mixed use, housing, business, really augment the center, the business district, and always contingent on water. And just be very clear about that. And I think the planning board should really know that we're going to be committed to water, which will allow us to expand business as well as housing in that area.
And the
And
front
it's
part is the front, is
Is
the
own
part of it.
commercial.
And I've spoken to both Habitat and, Repco, and they both are in agreement with that mixture. But I will say this again to everybody, and I'm not trying to piss you off, but I do remember, what was it about? It was before I was on the board. I think it was about 6 years ago.
You were yelling at me all the time.
Yeah.
No.
It was a lot of fun too. But about 6 years ago, when they were talking about putting in the condos, Dan Proctor was on the.
Oh, the Marbletown Green.
Right. And they did a water, I'm not saying this, we're going to do this. We're not. But I just want you to understand why it's better that it's in our hands. Because they did a water assessment. They had engineers come in. At the time was determined they could put up their houses. So, and I was horrified because I know water is an issue and all of those things, but they didn't care that there was no public water there. And they would have had every right to do that because they did everything in the law. So it never finally worked out because it was just too costly. But what they were trying to do, plus I think there was some commercial aspect to it that wasn't working for them. They wanted to do a lot more commercial than we wanted them to do. So, but so I mean, we're going to do this right. And as
this
Tim
is
said,
always-
we're not doing anything before we can do it.
This is the first time OSI has ever done anything that's not just strictly preserving property. So we have to make sure it's done right. Otherwise, it's not going to be done in the future.
I'd like to agree with what Tim said, that it doesn't all have to be housing. It could be things for the community too. So not just thinking that it's, just housing, but it could be open for other things that would benefit the community.
Yeah.
And that being said, in the resolution, it says the buyer and the seller will work together to do the surveying for, can you say a little more about that?
So OSI has done the main survey of the property. They did the survey. This lot line adjustment, it's like a Z to create the 15 acres. We're going to pay for that, the town.
And then the 15 acre, how much is I know it's being subdivided, but how much are lot lines being
No, there's no lot line.
defined?
No,
There's
no,
not.
nothing. The only
Okay.
thing that's happening is the application that is going to go before the planning board is literally to
Create a second
create
lot.
two lots, just to create two lots.
Okay.
One that
So
would be,
determine what we're
if
buying.
this
and what
goes, if this whole thing goes forward, one that would be part of your, your preservation, that would be.
And it's, I believe it's on the, I sent it to everybody and it's on our website. So
And they could have, they could have
It's like
just
a-
labeled one the developable lot and one
Yes.
the non-developable lot.
Exactly.
But they did that, and so that's caused sort of, there really is no tie to anything other than the fact that somebody grabbed a name for lot one and instead of calling it lot A and lot B.
And as from a planning board perspective, you're doing a housing development.
no,
No.
No.
Because it's labeled
this has
housing.
nothing to
we're
do with
not.
housing.
No.
It's labeled housing, that's why I'm
It's
saying.
just, but it's got,
But it has nothing to do, I mean, basically, it's just that when the planning board talks about it in terms of seeker, they will say,
It's
there
not-
is a potential that there will be an application
We're
in
not
the
tied into
future.
that.
and then any future application will have to go back to the planning board where the houses are
But
going to
so there's
go.
nothing-
This is
there's
a
not gonna be any
vacant, this is a vacant land.
There won't be any label.
I didn't-
for
I didn't
these
see how
lots.
they could
It'll be
do
lot one
seeker.
and lot two, that's
How
all.
could they even do seeker without even knowing what a plan is?
Well, nobody knows what the plan is. We don't even know what the plan is.
That's what I'm saying.
People subdivide their lots every
There
day.
just has to be.
The kind of
it just
seeker
has
for
to be-
this.
It's purely subdividing to
That's what we're doing.
two
That's what we're
lots.
doing is subdividing the property.
Yeah.
I always like to
The
look at,
labeling was a bad, but but it was labeled and out, so that's.
Yeah.
I also like to
No,
look
we
at,
could talk at the end.
I also
This is
like to
just the
look at
board.
this from
This is
a,
just a board.
I also like to look at this from the other standpoint is, how do you just take, it doesn't work. Like that 15 acres, if we sit on it, if the town can't get anything done in a period of time, that 15 acres will still retain its value or have more. So from that standpoint, I mean, from that standpoint of what the town's putting into it, it's really not a high risk maneuver at all. It's a very low risk maneuver, right? Because if you don't do anything, you just put, because that's the acreage on that whole thing, Tim, that really somebody,
We can
we'll
sell it.
say somebody like me would actually want.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, I can actually do something with this. The stuff down in the back, when you walk through, the day we walk through there, I mean, there's craters in there that are just like, you're like, wow, I'm down here about 50 feet lower than I thought I could ever get here.
So we could sell it to you.
Yeah.
It's 240,000 now.
Tim,
It'd be 800,000.
Listen, I was born at night, just not last night. Right, yeah. Been down that road. So, no, but you want to talk about the front acreage? You got a deal. But again, I'm still, it's,
Okay, so as a lawyer, that comment's off the table.
right.
No, I
Yeah,
was talking about the front acreage, but that's the point. We could sell the 15
I'm on the
acres
board, I can't purchase it.
if we don't.
The town could further subdivide it. It's 1 acre zoning. We could further
I
subdivide
think we
it.
have to
There's a
do
lot of things
everything
we
we
could do.
can to get affordable housing in there. and
That's the goal. That's
I think
our
that-
goal.
that we're going to, Rich and I are going to go full speed ahead this spring with grants and things like that for the water. So, and I think that we're already have had conversations with Repco. Habitat is very interested. And they're going to have further talks with Rich. And that's an organization that can also help us with these kinds of things, with getting the grants, because they're attractive to this kind of, for grant people.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried, 4-1.
Okay, Rich, do you want to should you do a roll call on that one or no?
We can, no, it's all right. Well, you're allowed to do long, you can do long rolls.
Just to be clear if there is a referendum, we'll know by when.
It depends when it depends when we buy the property,
You'll-
have the
you'll know-
closing.
you-
Then the clock doesn't start till we have a resolution to buy the property.
Right.
I'm not too worried about that, though. I think most residents are think it's a pretty good plan. At least anybody in my circle thinks it's awesome. So. Okay, resolution number 40 is a resolution to support Ulster County Resolution 102 to support ambulance services. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Joyce, can you untangle that, please? Legislator Kovacs from the town of Ulster has proposed taking $5 million from Ulster County's reserve fund and giving it up to the communities in the county. 50% would be population, 50% would be assessed value to help them fund their ambulance districts. 17 towns in the village Newport have supported this resolution already. And this is really just a memorializing resolution, letting our local legislators, Legislator Stewart and Legislator Green, know that we're in support of funding from the county to help us. So,
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. It's, no two ambulance services in Ulster County are alike. Everybody has got different ambulance services. There's some that are run under fire districts. There's some that are run by volunteers. There's some that are run by town employees. And then you've got models like ours where they're run by nonprofits. And, I think the county's goal is to try to get everybody to have some kind of a system that works. Like ours is what we call BLS, which is basic life support. Kingston, Saugerties, Ulster, New Paltz, they have ALS, which are paramedics, which is advanced life support. So, they're trying to get ALS. And then we've got other districts which are run by fire districts, and they're making 30% of the calls. And then they're being covered by neighboring districts. So hopefully this money will be used the county can kind of put a carrot out there to the districts that are not performing to say, if you want this money, you need to get your service going and coverage.
I would hope that like over a period of time, kind of what we've had happen here in Marbletown with the fire districts begins to happen with the ambulance service. It's, having run my life on consolidating things, the amount of vehicles and infrastructure that's put up in this community, not just our town, but in the county itself, it's really unsustainable the way it's done, to have it done in each town. And it really needs to start that way. And I'm hopeful that by putting these funds out, some of the towns will start talking about this and how you can do these services across lines, and just, because as long as you have the district, anyone can serve it. So I thought that that's true.
It is so complicated. They have a certificate of need, which is issued by the
So I'm
state.
learning something.
So there's a certificate, like right now, Marbletown Rescue services the whole town of Marbletown. The Allegerville Fire District, kind of up in the Clove and Allegerville for the town of Rochester, and the High Falls and Cottikill Fire Districts that are actually in the town of Rosendale. They have a certificate of need for that area. The entire town of Rosendale, the rest of the town over by Main Street and Tilson and Bloomington, they contracted with Marbletown First Aid Unit to cover that area. Rosendale had to apply for like a 90-day emergency certificate so the town of Marbletown could cover them. They're not town of Marbletown, the Marbletown First Aid Unit could cover them. Today I did a support letter that's going to go to the state. They're applying for a long-term certificate of need, a permanent one.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is over time, by doing this, you're hoping that more and more people go, we're going to file a certificate of need and a larger entity can
Right.
form.
Like New Paltz right now, Rescue Squad, the town of Lloyd contracted with them. So New Paltz Rescue Squad's covering the town of Lloyd, the town of New Paltz, and they're covering some of these districts in the southern end of the county where fire departments are doing it, and it's being run just with volunteers. And fire districts, as we know, their main focus is firefighting and accidents, and not necessarily having EMTs or paramedics. It's a lot harder to find them. So, but it's complicated. But Kenny's right. I mean, we've all got to start working together better.
Is our Marbletown crew in favor of this? Did they weigh in?
Yeah.
They are?
So part of it is, Tim, we don't know if the money would come to the town, and then we could lower taxes for the ambulance district and use the county funds and lower the tax rate, or we don't know if it would go directly to them. But in either case, it's going to help our taxpayers. And listen, at the end of the day, it's whether the residents are taking it out of their left pocket to give it to the town ambulance district or their right pocket to give it in their county taxes for the ambulance. At the end of the day, the residents are paying this. We're all paying it, the property owners. But what I think the county can do is they're like a bully pulpit. They can go to the communities and say, hey, we have got to start, getting ambulance service, got to start working together. And if everybody can get the basic life support rolling, then the county might even be able to fund what they call fly cars. They're just paramedics that just drive in SUVs, and they don't even need an ambulance. They show up at the advanced life support calls. They can do, administer drugs and needles, and they actually jump on the ambulance with the local provider, the local company, drive to the hospital, and then whoever's riding, shotgun in the ambulance, the EMT, they drive the fly car and follow them to the ambulance. And it saves a lot of money because paramedics don't need an ambulance.
What I could see is over time is that annual funding is going to have some strings attached.
It should have strings attached.
To say that if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, and that'll force consolidation.
Like we created an ambulance district a couple of years ago.
Right.
The county's been trying to get every town to create an ambulance district. That's really what they want, because once it's an ambulance district, the county could possibly take over these ambulance districts then. And then, but if we have one and then Rochester has one, but Olive doesn't have one, then it becomes really difficult for a county-wide operational. So anyway, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Kenny, were you a no?
I actually support that one. You knew that.
Resolution 41
You knew the other one too.
is a maintenance agreement for heating and air conditioning units at the Rondout Municipal Center. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Okay.
Aye.
This is an agreement we do every year. This is for Lau Plumbing and Heating. Our splits, they service our splits and maintain them. And, you know, when they're out, they come and take care of them. So.
Yeah, they did it last year.
Yeah, we do this. Yep, there's an agreement we've been doing every year with them. And, you know, we really have to do it because if we don't have maintenance on them and one of them breaks, then it's not covered under warranty. So we're don't have much of a choice. But they're really good. Somebody's heat is out in the winter, or the AC's out in the summer, they get out here immediately and work on the unit. So.
Listen, a shameless plug. I mean, Jeff and the Lau family have done a lot in the communities too. I mean, they're from here, do a lot.
Yeah.
And
No,
helped
they're-
out a lot of organizations.
Any other questions or comments? Tim, anything? And again, this cost is split by Marbletown and Rosendale. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, this one is a little tricky. Resolution 42, which is a CCA agreement extension. Can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Did you see the email, Tom? Okay, so, and then I'll let Tom speak in a second. So we have the community choice aggregation agreement. It's scheduled to end on June 30th. We went out for pricing for a new community choice aggregation to start July 1st. And the prices came in a little higher than the program administrators wanted and that the municipalities wanted. So what the goal was to possibly, if the utilities that we're buying the electricity from is willing to do an extension of up to 5 months, we would then, rate was 5 months, right, Tom?
It was up to 5 months. They actually didn't determine.
Well, because they haven't agreed to it yet.
Right. They
So-
said that we might be willing to do this.
So.
If you guys all agree.
Right, so, and the past this says that we will continue if they're willing to extend the current program. But again, it could be up to 5 months. But we just got an email from an attorney that, like, as I was sitting here and it was lengthy and I couldn't read it.
I read it.
Can you update us on what it is?
Yeah, so that extension would be the current contract at, the standard 50% blend that we signed up for before, if you vote for it. And then they decided to continue with it. But the email today was that we had a ruling from the PSC or the state saying that, that 50% contract was 50% New York State renewable credits and 50% out-of-state credits. The rulings, according to this lawyer who emailed us, says we can't even use the out-of-state credits anymore. So if we continue with it and it all happens, what would happen is it would be 50% in-state credits and 50% standard electricity at 0.15 cents per kilowatt hour less, because we wouldn't be paying for those, the pennies for that out-of-state, or fractions of a penny.
So this could lower the cost.
It would lower the cost a hair.
Okay.
I mean, it would be tiny, but we would no longer, remember we've had all these discussions about, can we call it renewable if it's an out-of-state credit? It actually, I like it because it just simplifies that discussion. It's 50% renewable now. And it would be a hair cheaper than it was.
And Central Hudson's daily rate now is above what we're paying for the CCA, so
Yeah, because
it's gone up.
Yeah, no, and there's
It
actually
could go up higher.
Yeah, there's some discussion about where it's going. I can
Canada.
give you, so there's several factors going on with current rates. One is over the winter, Central Hudson was profiting from previously bought hedge that was keeping their rates low.
Oh, is that what it was?
And it's coming off now. So we don't have it going forward. So that's sending rates up a bit. There's the potential trade war with Canada where Trump's putting a 10% tax on energy from Canada, and then Ontario came back and said, well, we're putting a 25% markup on anything sent into New York State and a few other states. So there's a lot of reasons to think that in the next 5 months or however long this extension might happen, it will be a very good deal. So I would certainly recommend. I personally, am, because of what's going on right now, I think we're not going to get the deal, but I think we should ask for it.
Oh, you don't think the provider will do it?
Well, so yeah, they were talking about.
They don't know how to derive a basis.
Their
What are they gonna do?
is going to undermine them giving us this deal, but, you know, they said they might. Let's say yes.
Say yes.
Is really my bottom line. They're going to then say
Be told no if you don't ask.
Yeah, if we don't ask, we won't get it.
And then if people, if we don't get the deal and we're just doing Central Hudson, if people want to go and get their own.
Then they can do what they did for the last 25 years
they can
before
do
we.
Xamp or something like that.
Okay. Any other, thank you, Tom, for explaining that.
Yeah.
And I was trying to read it, but I had
Yeah,
two
no,
computers going and
you were working.
I couldn't read the email. I was like, and explain it. I can read it. well, you know. Okay, any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Resolution 43 is to authorize the supervisor to accept the line of credit for Ulster Savings Bank site plan. Can I get a motion for discussion? And a second? Oh, we got it. Ulster Savings Bank, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. Has got approval from the planning board to build their bank, a new bank right next to their current location. It was approved a couple of years ago, and then for whatever reason, they didn't follow through. Now they are committed to finishing a project, so they had to come back to the planning board. This again is a stormwater plan, which we're dealing with our friends on 213 with. And they can either put up a bond, an escrow, or a line of credit. And the planning board was okay with the line of credit, with them doing it. So by law, the planning board can't accept it, only the town board can accept it.
Oh,
So this is us accepting.
And they're giving us an LOC for the total number.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. I
Yeah.
mean, it's literally, instead of buying an insurance policy, they're basically telling you that they have money in the bank that they're gonna leverage to use against.
I hope they have money in the bank.
Well, some of my money, not a lot, but they got a few of my money, my dollars.
Yeah, so
Good.
it's literally, it's allowed, it's one of the alternatives that you can pick, and but the town board has to accept it, and then.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, other business. I'll go really quick. Got some really good news. One of our two Ford F-150 Lightnings is coming in Thursday. That's what they sent an email yesterday. I didn't hear from them today. So thanks to Tom for all your work on that. So we're going to hopefully get that. Second is talking about Jewel and the community choice aggregation, the settlement money. Did you see that email, Tom? So we have a meeting tomorrow. The settlement money is going to be dispersed. So we'll learn tomorrow how that's going to be dispersed. All the residents who are in the CCA when the contract was terminated will be getting a check in the mail. And we don't know if it's $40 for some, higher users will get more. The most important thing we have to do is to let our residents know so they don't get a check in the mail if they get the scam and throw it in the garbage. Tom?
I think they will be getting a notification in the mail, and then they'll have to choose how to get their money. You
Okay.
can't get it online or.
It's Venmo, you can get Venmo, there's different ways
So
you
you'll
can
be getting
request
a
the money.
notification, which shouldn't.
Is that what they're gonna do? Because they originally said they were just gonna mail checks to people.
I think the most recent one they said is empty. I mean, we'll know more.
We'll know more tomorrow.
But I think
Put it in my
I think
DraftKings
it's
account?
unlikely we'll have to- It's cheaper than.
Okay. Well, then they gotta mail it twice if people want to check.
But it's online stuff.
Okay. No, thanks, Tom. Cannabis sales tax, I mentioned this, I think a month or two ago. The state, for the sales tax that we were entitled, any municipality that had an address with a Kingston zip code 12401, you'll be happy about this, Ken. They mailed all those checks to the town of Ulster. So the city of Kingston didn't get any cannabis money. Rosendale didn't get any cannabis money. We didn't get any cannabis money.
Ulster must have been really happy.
So, yeah, he had a big smile on his face. So, March Gallagher has been really working hard to try to get the state to straighten it out. But she said it's just, the Office of Cannabis Management is just a disaster. They can't even identify that Route 209 in Stone Ridge or 213 East, wherever that is. They can't even get in their records that it's the town of Marbletown. It shows that they're in the town of Ulster, and they can't even do it. So, Trillia, you what?
What are they smoking?
Yeah, what are they smoking? Exactly.
So can't Ulster just cash our check and give us the money?
So the problem is they don't
know,
know where it came from. They just got a check. It doesn't
delineate.
It doesn't delineate. It's just a check. So like when they get it straightened out and we get a check, we're gonna know where it came from. We have one store. So it's not gonna, so City of Kingston got none. Got no money either. So it's just drives me crazy. So anyway, March.
They got a roundabout.
Yeah, they got a roundabout. March asked if we could talk to them tomorrow. I'm going to call them tomorrow and see if we can do something. Some really good news. The stormwater plan from Duchess Farm was dropped off. So our building department is looking at it. They'll start reviewing it and hopefully, CPL is the final arbitrator, but the town has to sign off on it. There's also maps included in it that the planning board has to sign off on. So I got to reach out to you and Jim tomorrow to see, can a planning board sign something that it didn't go through them?
We'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that we might end up. And then there's some other stuff. But anyway, we'll talk tomorrow and I'll talk to you guys. So that's it with me. Ken, anything new?
No.
Tim?
Just, we got a letter from the Board of Ethics. We need to weigh in on what to say about the disclosure forms and how to respond.
So I'll reach out to them. A couple of those folks are not on the boards anymore. They either stepped down or resigned or something. So I'll get those back to everybody.
And the historic preservation, we're doing a really deep dive research on the community center and tracked down this whole timeline. It's fascinating. It was from 1770, the original building, and then it was really town center for many years. In 1830 was the center of the town. But they'll write that up for us and we can look at it.
Thanks, Jim. Paige, anything new?
No, the preservation group isn't meeting this month. They're going to hold off because there's nothing pressing right now until next month. And we're going to start working on Marbletown Meadows on the trail hopefully pretty soon. And we're just getting some engineering work done on that to figure out what it's going to look like and what kind of materials we're using and those kinds of things. So we'll report when we have information.
Thank you. God bless you. All right. So that's the end of the business. Public comment. Anybody like to say anything, Vivi?
And City Hall, I'd like to report on what's happening with the community center.
We're going ahead. We're getting, Scott's putting together the final report now. And then it'll be from there. It's going to go out to bid and it takes how many days, Rich, for that?
I think 30 or 45 to accept bids.
Work to begin when?
I don't know, but believe me, I'm pushing this every day and I'm on top of it and so is Rich.
And there's no new news in 2 weeks.
It's just good to get a report on it, just as you reported.
Yes.
Marbletown Meadows.
And to be honest with you, we probably would have said a little more tonight and it was my bad. The Parks and Recreation Committee was coming tonight to do a report and
They're going to come our next
coming
meeting.
on April 1st. We asked them to move it just because it's already 8 o'clock. So we just thought, we wanted them to have a really nice wide breadth of time. So, and they're going to be reporting on the playground equipment as well and all that stuff. So
Thanks, Daisy. Thank you. Yep.
I spoke to a roofer friend of mine this week, Steve of SAP Roofing. Apparently, several years ago, he had done for free
on more than one occasion, repairs to the roof at the Marymount Community Center.
So
And he had also put in an estimate for like the total roof, so maybe he should be one of the people who.
right, he can, anybody can bid for this. It's whoever does the lowest bid. And but we're not doing it in components. We're going to work at taking this list as a whole, working with the general contractor. So,
But he's a major roofer. and-
right. Well, he's welcome to,
And he might be willing to do, he did it freely on several occasions.
we can't do that.
You can bid zero.
He can bid zero, yeah, if he wants to, yeah. But he'd have to be able to do the whole building.
Yeah.
He'd have to, he'd have to be a contractor that could then bring in other people to do the whole building. We're not,
Well, the contractor can bring him in.
yes,
Yes, yeah.
that's right. The
It would be a
contractor can
sub.
bring him in for the $0. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're gonna hire a general contractor to do all of the work?
Yes.
To hire subcontractors?
Correct.
Yeah, we're not doing work, yeah.
Okay, lady back there.
Which of the 90-odd acres have you identified as being the parcel that's suitable for development?
I can give it to you. We've got an outline of where
It's
it's.
15.
Oh, yeah, it's 15 is
15
development.
acres.
15 is
Oh,
development.
I see what you mean, out of that whole, which is the part we've identified
Yes,
as.
you're going to be building houses.
So we aren't going to be building houses.
You're not going to be building.
No, we'll partner with the housing,
We're
a housing
gonna
group.
bring in a housing authority.
The town will not be building.
Town won't be
that.
building anything.
Right. But you want to know where the 15 acres is, right?
Yeah, we can
You
show
want to
you.
know where the 15 acres is. There's a map right here you can look at.
Yeah,
Well, that's very kind of
yeah, I'll bring it over to you.
And also just remind John, the Preservation Advisory Fund Board did the presentation when they recommended the property. It also had all the maps and that
I think those
the
are on the
separate,
website.
and it's on the website. So it had the preservation part and the housing part
The
separate.
reason I ask is there's no housing there now.
No.
There's no building there now. There's a reason for that. It's a very difficult site to develop. It's marshland.
No,
Not
not the
this
part we're
part.
talking about. It's not.
eh? So
It's
you've
the
got a
preserved
piece of
part.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Amplification would be wonderful, by the way.
The preserved part has the wetland
You're
area.
talking about the piece opposite the shopping center.
Yes.
But there is a piece of that whole component, so we're looking at a 90 some odd acres.
So the piece of the bridge.
Right, but there is a 15-acre piece that is actually,
Yeah, well,
it's not wetland, it is dry.
you can have this. I'll give it to him after.
We'll
Right,
give you
no,
the-
I know what you're talking about. I just want to be sure of that, to get an idea what you're, I mean, I don't know what you guys have got in mind for that piece there. What's going to be built on it?
Water district.
No plans
Right
right
now.
now.
There's no plans right now. Okay, thanks.
Affordable housing.
Last time I know you were saying that in a couple of weeks, we're gonna hear from Scott. And a couple of weeks have gone by.
Okay.
Is Scott under any kind of a deadline to come up with something that actually? can be
So
used?
I just really want to be clear about one thing. This is not Scott's fault. We've changed our mind on what we've wanted to do 3 or 4 or 5 times in the last 4 or 5 months.
You guys are so busy. Why not ask for some help from the community? for housing?
Because the community voted for us to make these decisions. The community doesn't want to be involved in this. They want the
I don't know
board.
if that's true.
I'm not going to argue with you. Scott is working. We've given him directions, then we've changed the directions.
Have you given him a deadline?
No, you don't give,
Well, then what's the purpose of all this?
we're not going to argue with you. He's working really hard and we are going to have plans to go out with bid in the near
I swear to
future.
God, it
The
is gonna
grant
be
was
very-
extended and there's a deadline of 6 months in the grant and we will meet that deadline. So we're really
You
confident
meet the deadline for what?
for the grant, for the grant,
For the grant.
To
but
do the- to-
deadline for what?
to do
when
the
does
heat.
Scott have to come
He
with?
hasn't even looked
I mean,
at
Listen,
does he come
Listen,
with
there,
the
you
last
can't give a
deadline?
deadline. He may open up a wall and find asbestos, and nothing can happen for 6 months. Like, the annex next to it?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking.
Well, we are.
We are. We don't know. We don't know.
We gotta,
Well, she's not.
Let her finish what she's saying. I'm not talking about the actual work. I'm talking about when the material
Soon.
will be ready to go.
Very soon.
Very soon.
We've been
We've
on
changed
top
a
of
couple
him,
times and we keep
and it's
giving them
really is our
different
fault because what happened was we went in with Scott, but we also went in with somebody from the Preservation Commission to look over the building, and we just kept finding more things. And so we wanted the list to be comprehensive and right so that we didn't end up going in there and getting a quote and then have somebody come in and say, well, actually, there's a lot more that you didn't see.
Well, no matter who you go to, that's gonna happen. That's. the
No, I
nature of
understand that.
construction.
Okay, you know what? I'm really sorry that we haven't met your timeline. This is where we are.
What answer do you want?
Well, let's say since 2000,
No, what answer do you want?
how about 3 months, 3 weeks from today?
Okay? And when we don't meet that, we don't control that.
Why?
No, it's not. We don't control that.
That's so rude what you just said right now. You're challenging her?
I'm not challenging her. I'm making a
Yes, you
statement.
are.
Stop.
Go.
I didn't think that was rude.
I don't think it's rude. To say
I think it was a good
control that.
Stop.
You're leaving.
Stop.
Bye.
Stop.
Bye.
Stop.
All I'm saying is we don't control that. And what Daisy was saying, just, you were speaking? Go ahead.
Straightforward thing to get an assessment of the state of the building.
Right. And what Daisy was saying is, as a board, we did not agree until recently on what we were going to get a proposal on. There was let me finish, okay? Is it okay? Let me just finish.
The problem is, if you don't know what the problem is, how can you agree on anything? And you
I agree with you 100%.
We do have,
You're right.
John?
You just made our
You
case.
just made our case. We keep getting more stuff that says this.
You need someone to go in and assess what the problem is. That's simple.
We have.
So-
Then you know.
Exactly.
Then you know what you have, and you're facing. Then you can tell.
And we're doing that, John, and I think, I swear to you, it's going to be very soon. We're going to have the list, and then we're going to go out to a general contractor. And I apologize for the fact of this, that things have been so imprecise. Honestly, I think we all just wanted to make sure that we got this right. And I trust Scott. I do wish he had been a little faster with all of this, but I trust him implicitly. And I think that you'll find at the end of the day, by doing it the right way and taking our time, which I realize a lot more time than people would like, that we'll end up doing this right. And I just want to do it right. That's all.
It's a day's work.
Okay.
It's a day's work for a man to go in there with the knowledge and go around that building and tell you what.
No, it's not.
Like Doug
No, it's not. No, it's not.
So I,
It is? What's your profession?
What's my profession?
Yeah.
Retired.
Oh, okay. So you got this information that it's just an easy task doing
I
that?
didn't say it was an easy task.
Okay, so it's not a day's
No,
work.
I'm saying it's a day's work.
I mean, come on, the guy, I mean,
And assess what's really needed.
so you don't want to hear.
All right,
Okay.
It's a week's work. It's a
All right.
week's work. That's
Right.
2 weeks' work.
And then he's putting it together and he's getting people to bid on the project. That's what you want, right?
What week is this?
Is that what you want?
Listen, John, we've got
I
houses.
don't understand what you
We've
want.
got houses. There's a house by me up on Cherry Hill Road that was construction started, and it's been 5 years and nothing's been done. And it's a house. So this is a huge 5,000 square foot building, and it takes time to do it. You understand construction projects.
And it was done.
Don't
But,
laugh.
you know, that's not the point. The point is you've been very vague about everything we asked. The next time we come here,
Stop
we get the
building
same kind of
again, and
delivery. Next
All right.
week, the week after that.
So I think-
Whenever.
it's clear. I just want to say it's clear. I think we as a board want to have a real data-driven approach. We want to make accurate decisions and have to make budget decisions that are very serious. And we want the numbers. We got to go by the numbers. And we have been asking for a while. And I hear the frustration. I personally also have been frustrated by the timeline. But partially this is government and partially this is an old house. I looked at the timeline of that building, by the way. The floor was replaced. This was about 20 years ago, and it was patchwork done at the time. It was replaced in 1946 as well. So I think there's a lot of
Well, that's the
work
thing.
that now we have to
Yes.
deal with because it was patchwork. And in order for safety, which is also a government building and a safety, it requires another standard. So there are some complicated there, but we are making up for decades of maintenance that was not done.
I'm really glad to hear the concern on the part of the board. This is really the first time I have heard of blanket concern from everyone. Maybe not Rich.
Listen, do you think we want to deal with this? We would love to see the building fixed in a timely manner, but the reality is
But anyway,
construction projects are lengthy and complicated.
that you are finally, maybe it's
That's what we want to know too, John. We do want to know that.
We're not going to do anything or make any
That's
decisions
right.
about it until we come to you with the figures. Until we come here into this room with the figures,
Yeah.
so,
okay, so, and that'll be soon.
yes.
Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It's actually.
Good night. Everybody get home safe. Thank you. Motion to adjourn? So moved. Enjoy tomorrow's 70-degree day.
Oh, my God.